So we continue with our next panel discussion. We're going to explore what are successful practices in Bulgaria for introducing an ESG framework. I'm having the honor to invite to the stage Dr. Marina Stefanova, who is the chairperson at Bulgarian Association of CSR Specialists. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you.
Joining her on stage are Gergana Papadopoulou, CEO of Financial Market Services at BSE, Radoslava Maslarska, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Elana Trading, and Georgi Kudrev, Co-founder and CEO at Imagga Technologies and Kelvin Health.
Okay.
So let me tell you a bit more about Dr. Stefanova. I mentioned that she is the chairperson at the Bulgarian Association of CSR Specialists. She is also an associate professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration in Sofia University St. Clement Ohridsky. She is director of the Master's Program Responsible and Sustainable Governance and consultant on the Business for Results program of UNICEF in Bulgaria. Chairman of the Bulgarian Association of Corporate Social Responsibility Specialists, BACSUS, right? Member of the steering committee of the Association of the Investor Relations Directors in Bulgaria and the Bulgarian Food Bank. Founder and director of the multimedia information educational program CSR Advice Box of Kausi Foundation. She is also member of the Advisory Council on Corporate Social Responsibility at the Ministry of Labour and Social Policy. That's about it. Only that? Okay, so continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. When we were discussing, I thought that I have the shortest introductory CV among our panelists, so we decided that we will not really go into the details of this, but thank you for introducing me in that depth. So I would really have additional 2 at least sentences per each of you, because otherwise it won't be fair. So Radoslava Maslarska, as we understood, she's a chairman of the board of directors of Elana Trading, but what I wanted to say for her is that for the more than 20 years of working in this field, she brought to the company and to her team more than 32 national awards. So it is something quite impressive on that. And yeah, thank you so much for supporting me. Unfortunately, we have huge lights against us, so we cannot see whether you are smiling or not, but I hope that you are not sleeping, because you are having a coffee break, and now we are going to speak about numbers. So hopefully you will be awake on that. Speaking about numbers, I would like really also to underline that Gergana Papadopoulou, our next participant, also has more than 20 years working, especially focused on the investment in the Bulgarian Stock Exchange. So we really, and more than 300 SMEs projects she also implemented during her working career. So I think it's quite impressive numbers, and we continue speaking in numbers. So applause for her. Thank you. And not speaking of numbers intentionally, but speaking on technology, we have our last, but not last in importance, panelist, who is Georgi Kudrev, and not only co-founder and CEO of Imagga Technologies and Kelvin Health, but also I really would like to read it. It says, a pioneer in artificial intelligence and image recognition, and also a big believer that power of technology can advance civilization and improve human life. So it is a real combination of the future that we are experiencing now. And speaking about numbers, I really would like to emphasize on 2 more, because having started this conference with the term of sustainability as a core human value, then going to these inspirational stories, having it on the entrepreneurial field with the green-born businesses, on the transformation road of the normal businesses to sustainable business models of the huge companies who are having a really big impact on the not only Bulgarian but international economy. And then going to arts and culture, you can imagine that it's a little bit, I wouldn't say boring, because numbers are not boring, especially if you follow them on the next panel where we'll speak what does it mean for the people with the money, the numbers that we produce in our panel. But still, we have two very important sources of primary information to put our numbers as a numerical targets. The first one, as you already know, it is about the Paris Agreement. So we have 1.5. These are the degrees of Celsius which we shouldn't go beyond. And the next, this is a very concrete target. And then the next one, we have a little bit more. We have a little bit like between 169, which are the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and the indicators, which are 224. So if you would like to really measure sustainability, we have a valid system for measurement and alignment which focuses on all of the aspects of sustainability in our life. This means economical, social, and environmental part. And they go together. And for me, as a person who is really working in this field for quite a lot of years, the thing that we can now really operationalize is bringing the numbers. But what we will start learning from now on is how to make these numbers make synergy. And the synergy goes beyond the added value of each of these three pillars of sustainable development as a separate unities. So we will hear, and I'm really excited that over the last 2 years we saw and we heard already that we are having so much investment and development of know-how in several actors. I'm really happy that these actors are coming from the business sector and the civil society sector. I hope that the public sector will embrace them and will, multiply them and scale them in order to cover the whole country and not only the pioneers in operating and measurement in the field of return on investment with the non-financial data, non-financial performance of the companies. But still, we are in the beginning of this market. And not only market, but also attitude and mindset, both of companies and the consumers of this information. Because this is a completely different type of information that we are going to read about during the next years. Now we need to find the proper ways to produce this information, not only to avoid greenwashing, but also to be able to prove ourselves that we align with the overall objectives of the society and the world. Hopefully we will do it better and faster, and we will be more transparent. And I believe that after being transparent, we will be able to bring the biggest capital of all, and this is the capital of trust of all stakeholders, internal and external. So starting with our discussion, thank you for the long patience for introduction, but still I wanted to put you in the mindset of why we need the numericals. It is not about measurement means management. It is about why it is so important to measure what is important, to follow what is important and report on that. And transform it through the mindset of money, because money is where investment will come afterwards, and after our panel, of course. So I would give first the floor to Radoslava, and I have a very brief question. You are working so much with enterprises. In your opinion, are Bulgarian companies ready? To what extent they are ready to embrace this non-financial or environmental, social, and governance KPIs measurement and reporting?
Small and medium-sized enterprises, by definition, in Bulgaria, represents 99.8% of the business in Bulgaria. And 97.8% of total is really micro and small businesses. This is the Bulgarian reality. What we have is 400,000 companies, which are small, micro and small companies, struggling to survive during these severe times of pandemic, lockdowns, war, unbearable prices of electricity and gas, lack of labor force, sky-high inflation, not mentioning the political instability in Bulgaria during the last couple of years. And these companies, at the same time, after the admission of Bulgaria into the European Union, our business are witnessing a lot of regulations that are coming one after another. They're changing so fast that the companies don't have the possibility to read them and understand them. What about implementing them? And so what is ESG? What is ESG according to the companies, to most of the companies? Isn't it another European regulation that burdens business, that increases bureaucracy, that hampers small companies? Small companies, they are trying to find people to do the everyday job, the everyday activities of the companies, and now with these additional obligations, in fact, this is more or less additional burden for the companies and additional cost, and at certain stage, at this stage, they don't see the positive effect of being sustainable. They don't see it because no one talks about this, or no one talks a lot about this. I will share some pre-pandemic survey, but it's, again, numbers. This pre-pandemic survey, we are very thankful to Marina, showed that only 12% of the large Bulgarian companies, in fact, have complete ESG policy. Less than 10% of companies disclose how they measure the ESG results, and only 1%, in fact, use third-party verification for their ESG results and reports. This represents extremely low readiness of the companies. We need a change. We need a quick change. We need it fast. Sustainability is not a pro forma exercise. Sustainability, or the green transition, is a mission, and it's not another part of the corporate report that the companies are doing just because they're obliged to do it. So we need to act fast. We need to provide a lot of information. We need to provide a lot of education and trainings. We need to show successful examples, successful examples of companies that manage to profit from this ESG transition. Using all channels of distributing information, we must raise the awareness of as many people as possible. It's clear that big changes are made by big companies. So if we have real impact, we need the biggest companies to act fast and to be sustainable. But I believe that the sustainability is a mission, and I believe that the truth is that we must work to change the mindset of every single business, of every single manager, of every single person. This is a process that is slow and steady, but for sure, if we invest in informational campaigns, if we publicly share good examples of companies that increase their efficiency by implementing ESG, and if we provide support to the companies during this transition period by different kind of incentives, I believe that this is the way we can educate the companies, inform them, and make them believe that they can profit from being sustainable, not only as businesses, but as humans, as families. So last but not least, for sure, the government plays a very important role in this process. For example, the government can, let's say, set a green certification agency and can provide these services to the business for free, without any charge or at lower cost, or can use and support some existing solutions like oxygen, for example, because it's very important for the businesses to implement the matrix for measuring the ESG. This is the first step, and then the digital part, to make this digital in order for the companies to make the measurement much easier, because they have to do it on a regular basis.
Thank you so much. You raise a very important question, the one that I'm hearing being in this field for quite a long time. I'm hearing it like, okay, but this is another place where, and another entry point where the big consulting companies would find, additional market. And thank you for focusing on the educational capacity building and real transformational part of the sustainability journey, because it really is about the transition part. It really is about of changing the DNA of the business models of the companies. And staying only on the reporting part as producing some numbers, nevertheless, what is the context, what is the comparability, what is the trends these are doing and affecting on the performance of the company, means that we are on the surface, and of course we can outsource this activity to anyone. But this is not about this. And I really like the focus on the stakeholders there, because we as an ecosystem, we as a supportive system coming from academia or financial services or the stock exchange or non-governmental organizations or even some spin-offs of agencies, as you said, we need to provide this assistance in order to enable this transition. And I really would like to ask now, because you have worked so long in financial market services is a company which is especially within the group of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange focused on how to help these companies. It is a huge regulation packages that are coming, and they're coming every single 6 months. I mean, it's an enormous wave. It's a disaster. Like if you put it like a force majeure, it is a force majeure with a legal component on it. How you are managing and what is happening there in order for you to be able to assist the companies?
So I fully agree with two of you that the companies face challenges to apply the dynamic European regulations. And because Radoslava said that we have to speak about it a lot, I will share with you our experience in the field of ESG and what we are doing as a group or as a Bulgarian Stock Exchange group in order to support the companies to face the new regulations. So at the beginning, I want to note that financial market services, or FMS in short, I will use, which I represent today, as a part of a Bulgarian Stock Exchange group, was established entirely to support public companies to fulfill their legal obligations for information disclosure to the Bulgarian Stock Exchange, Financial Supervision Commission, and of course to the public. Financial Market Services maintains a platform extranews.com where this information is published. So we have been working for transparency of information and data transfer to the stakeholders from our very beginning, and providing companies with the infrastructure they need to do that. So with this context, I could share our perspective, and I hope that it is information that is relevant to all of you. So I will present today two main points. The first, I will tell you where we stand in the ESG ecosystem, and later in the discussion I will talk I will focus on our ESG reporting to Oxygen. So let me start with our work and efforts as a group to talk about our work. I will briefly mention the main initiatives in which the Bulgarian Stock Exchange has been actively involved in the last 2 years. Starting with 2020, Bulgarian Stock Exchange became a partner exchange in the Sustainable Stock Exchanges initiative, which of course opens an additional channel to up-to-date information and transfer of good practices to the stakeholders here in Bulgaria. So the Green Finance and Energy Center was launched in March 2021, and it concentrates, as you know, Marina, the efforts of the business, the government, academic community, global consulting companies, and NGOs, of course, toward the sustainable development of the country. The Green Center developed and adopted the first and so far only ESG reporting guidelines in Bulgaria, and that is very important because they contain recommendation for ESG accountability, not only for the public companies, but of course for all companies in Bulgaria that would like to follow responsible behavior. So in the context of today's discussion, I would mention our very important partnerships in the last 2 years with the global rating agency Refinitiv for ESG scoring for Bulgarian companies, and of course the partnership with PlanA. Lubomila has already talked about PlanA for developing Oxygen. So this is where financial market services came in. Drawing on our profile and experience, so we created instruments supporting companies in their ESG reporting, and that means reporting in a structured, comparable way. So as a part of Bulgarian Stock Exchange Group, we are part of this huge challenge of ESG reporting and transfer of information. So we maintain an infrastructure that is up to date with respect to any latest amendments in the legislation, and our obligation is to have a solution in place even before the legal requirements come into effect. So as you can imagine, it is a huge challenge for me and my team, and taking into account that the European regulation is very dynamic. So we managed to create a product that makes it easier for the listed companies to report ESG. This is because many public companies, in addition to reporting on corporate governance, are obliged to report also environmental and social aspects for the first time by 2025. The scope of the mandatory information in the ESG report will increase more and more in the coming years, and the scope of the companies that oblige to report will expand more and more. And in addition, in today's reality, the most important priority for the companies is to keep the company working successfully at growing. And in my experience shows that most small companies in Bulgaria regard ESG commitments as a side activity. So we must remember, like Radoslava already noted, that 90% of the companies on Bulgarian Stock Exchange are small and medium enterprises. And sorry, I really understand that at the beginning it can be very time-consuming and expensive for them to collect the data needed for an ESG report. So as an instrument to provide them with a relevant solution, we have set up Oxygen. And now I will only note that, because it's very important, that non-financial reporting in Oxygen is based on the technology platform developed by PlanA, and I will speak later for our platform.
Well, I don't know what does it mean later. Of course, you will take the floor again, but let's hear now from our representative of he, not of she. We were discussing even in the previous preliminary conversations about the role of technology. So what do you think, because you are a believer in technology that can ease our world, so is it possible that technology can offer solutions both for the companies to collect data, to report on it, but also to transform themselves?
Thank you very much for this question. So yeah, my creed has always been that technology can transform things in a radical way, because technology is very scalable, it's in most cases automated, and it's very precise. And no matter if you talk about collection of data or analysis of data or suggestion of certain types of measures that can be taken, I think that just technology is a huge enabler. Based on our experience, we are one of the first adopters of PlanA solution as well in Bulgaria, for many reasons, including that we just like new things, and we like to be prepared about something before it has actually become something inevitable. Just as a side reference, even not directly related to technology, but we were one of the few companies that had completely remote work even before the COVID-19 pandemic. So what happened is that when it struck, a lot of people were just wondering how to restructure their workflows, because they haven't been used to work remotely. And by coincidence, we were working remotely, and we practically didn't change almost anything because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I hope that in the area of sustainability, there won't be huge cataclysms that would cause us something of severe importance in terms of measuring our footprint and in general our ESG. But I believe that as those regulations are coming, and in general as the situation, even the war was mentioned, as everything is becoming more and more tight in a way, we'll be better prepared as a company through solutions that can help us to be more responsible in terms of sustainability. So there are many examples how technology can be applied for that. Even with the things that we do as company, we are very much into artificial intelligence, and one of the huge advantages of that is that it's bringing the whole software stack to a next level. As I briefly mentioned in the beginning, more automation, more clear data flows, more powerful analysis of data. Even, I believe, on a meta level, when we have all this data collected from companies, this is something valuable for themselves, because they have a very easy tool, very straightforward, that can provide some analysis, can give some recommendations. But on a next level, if we can have this data aggregated, I believe that for us as a society, as an economy, this will help us to be better in our sustainability efforts. And all this is possible because of information technologies, and I'm a big believer. I'm in general an optimist in almost any situation, and I do believe that the earlier we start to adopt things and to support and utilize them, the better return of investment are we going to have, both as a society and individuals that are part of this society.
So let me just share with you a little bit, only one sentence on insight of what does it mean to go digital. When we were looking with our team, research team, for the data and for the analysis, which already Radoslava mentioned in the beginning of her introduction, we had to read more than 14,500 pages of 78 enterprises. And unfortunately, this is a public data in the trade registry where we downloaded them, of course, because they should be accessible to everyone. Unfortunately, there were more than 15% of these documents, you can imagine the data, which were printed, signed by person, scanned as a JPEG, and then put as a large file, sometimes more than 100 megabytes per document. Absolutely unreadable, undownloadable, everything inaccessible. I mean, if we speak about accessibility, never you are speaking about 21st century, but we are still in the accounting system where we have 19th, 18th century approach. So it is crucially important, the data, and the regulations which are coming, and my next note would be only to continue. I would really like to invite you all stop speaking about these regulations and about this transformation in a future tense. Plus, it's already started 10 years ago. Now we are in the middle of it, going into the national, going into the normative way, which means that we are already late for that. And the transformation should go further beyond the legal norm. So it is about transforming now because we are already late for that, not waiting for 2025 to come and then to put something on paper, nevertheless not to be fined because it's a government or a legal requirement. But let's go, what are the other challenges? These are only part of the challenges that I mentioned. Can you please give us or share on your experience what are other challenges and what is the way forward? Because we would need to speed up the discussion. I would like to give the floor to the colleagues from the audience. But the way forward, not only the problem, but the solution as well.
For sure, what you mentioned is a really big problem for the Bulgarian reality. And for me, working more than 20 years in the financial sector, this and working with public companies, this is extremely important to be transparent and to be able to find the data and analyze it, because this is part of our jobs, more or less, like financial institutions. But for sure, the lack of trained people, trained employees who can gather the information, can analyze it, and can measure the carbon footprint, for example, this is a big issue for the companies, because, as you mentioned, the other alternative are consultants who are very good but expensive option. So the other thing is the lack of technical solution. In fact, there is limited availability of accounting systems that are designed to capture sustainability performance data. And this is a big issue because you need to make this process automated, because you need to measure sustainability factors on a regular basis. For sure, the lack of certification system is a problem. Companies face difficulties of measuring intangible benefits also. But maybe the biggest problem of all is the lack of national strategy for encouraging and preparing companies for this ESG disclosure that they have to face in the next couple of years. And what all this leads to greenwashing, because there is lack of proper control and verification, and fictitious ESG reports without verifications from third parties. Challenges for the companies, in fact, become challenges for the investors. Investors are the one that will pay the bill at the end. So I think that it's very important to address these challenges as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. And what about, you mentioned already oxygen, just a few sentences focused on that, about how we can overcome these challenges.
I told you that I am going to speak later for oxygen.
For sure.
So, my experience shows that the companies face challenges, and sometimes it's very difficult to navigate with the massive flow of information, especially for ESG. And some of the policies, of course, are imposed on companies by already existing regulations. Like you said, the process started 10 years ago, and some of the policies there was imposed to the companies at the national level. For example, the requirements for safe working conditions. Of course, the policies has to be rewritten or transformed in line with the new requirements. And as I already said, most small companies in Bulgaria regard ESG commitments as a side activity. But if you are starting just now to work, there is no regulation that says you need to do this kind of ESG reporting. However, many small and medium enterprises are facing growing requests for sustainability information, typically from banks that lend them money and large companies that they supply. So the transition of sustainable economy is likely to mean the collecting that kind of data becomes common business practice. So Oxygen helps companies to set up a baseline and start the journey of ESG reporting. The product itself consists of about 200 questions, which are divided into 6 main sections. And short, governance, environmental, social, employee, human rights, anti-corruption. Each of these sections follows a similar structure. The important part of Oxygen is the carbon footprint calculator. You can use it to measure your scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. And the methodology behind the carbon footprint calculator, it's very important, is developed, of course, by PlanA and is certified by the global certificatory TÜV. So I think that Oxygen significantly minimizes the manual work and provides some clear advantages. But if I have to stop, could answer the questions for Oxygen and go deeper in the details after the panel if someone wants to know something additional like information.
So there are the problems, but still we already produce solutions which are workable, which we can adopt directly. And it is not the only solution. There will be a market of them. And my real suggestion to everybody is really to focus on what will suit you, your company. And that's why you need to know a little bit more for sustainability in order to be able really to go deeper and find the proper solution and the proper mix of tools that you can use in order to build and sustain your sustainable business model. So again, for you, last sentences from this discussion among us, then we will invite if there are some questions. I am really challenged because, as you said, you are an innovator by soul, and your company obviously have the innovation and trying the new things by in its DNA. So you cannot be somehow challenged. I mean, you look for the challenges in order to build your business upon and to develop it. But still, do you find any real objective, reasonable, arguable motives to implement the ESG approach to management? Because you're also an owner and also the main driver of the company to go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that there are generally right things to do, as absolute as it may sound. But, you know, I believe that if there is something that is the right thing to do, it's also the most profitable thing to do in the long run. So the drive is, okay, if we need to care about sustainability, about in general the health of our planet, to put it that way, because we are very much in the healthcare industry in the last 2 years, the things that we do and the efforts that we do in that direction, they're for sure, and it's a conviction. I cannot prove it as a theorem or something, but you know that being sustainable is actually something that is giving you a pretty good return in the long run. And I believe one of the things that's pretty objective is employer branding as well, not in the, how to say this, cynical meaning of the term, but we want to send a little bit of a message or a huge message. You know, we're a responsible company. We do technologies that help sustainability and responsibility in other areas of life. So let's do this also in the context of ESG in general. I'm not sure, as I said, that I can give you a super particular answer and say, you know, this is objective and this is not. We don't feel it as a burden. We feel it as something that even is helping us to optimize some of our operational processes, because the way how monitor things for ESG reporting is very much aligned with, in general, resource allocation and even logistics. So for us, it's something good that we do that is helping us to be more disciplined with our operations. Maybe this is the most objective thing that I can say.
So thank you. I think that the most important thing you mentioned, and it is something that we see in academia, because we usually teach you before you become the general managers and the leaders of big businesses or small startups. It is really the perspective. And here we only shift the perspective from short term to long term. Mm-hmm. Then all changes at once. So if one of the messages I can bring to you and agree with you for the table to this forum is think of this in a long run, in the long term, in order to become much more convicted and much more motivated to change in the short term. I know that we are in the end of our discussion. I really cannot see you, but if there are any questions that you already feel that you cannot wait for the break to answer, or they will be of utter importance to everyone, can you please ask us? I know about the chair. If we were in academia, I would put somebody without volunteering on this chair. But still we are here, and I am kindly asking you. Is there any questions? No? Okay, do we have 1 more minute from the organizers? Yes, we have. 1 minute. Okay, so I will use then 1 minute, not about conclusions, because my panelists were quite optimistic in the end, and we are still in the beginning of this transformation journey, to make a self-advertisement of Sofia University, because everything what we heard about, like a general message from each of us till now, was capacity building and learning on this journey and lifelong learning in the field of sustainability. So let me tell you that working in the field of business with education, I can share with you 2 or 3 numbers. Our oldest students in the master program now in the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration is at the age of 72. Our average people who are part and a profile of the master program for a responsible and sustainable governance is between 40 and 45, and they're at least on a high-level manager position, mostly owners or general managers of companies. For me, this means something that I'm hearing on the interviews during the process of application. We would like to lead our companies through this storm. So yes, it is a crisis, yes, it is coming from everywhere, but we can together bring a forum where we can learn, exchange, and I think that the role of academia is to help you, not to teach you about economic theories which were working in 1920 or 1930, but to be able to provide you with general information, with context, with empirical research, not only best practices like that. These are part of other stakeholders to bring to the table, but also to bring you together and make a stakeholder platform within our domain, in the academic domain, in order to explore and discuss this road, because it is a one-shot. We have the time and we have the money only once to spend in order to transform ourselves and save the planet. So thank you very much. I hope it was only 1 minute. And I'm really looking forward to the next panel. Please stay, because it's talking about the money, green money. Thank you.